Blessed be, Tree family. How we holding up today? Got some fun stuff for you guys. Gonna be going all over the place a little bit here. So I'm gonna start with a parody. I often do these allegorical things and jokes and such. I want you to know the robe, the hair, the anointing, all that stuff. I'm just made of dirt, just like the rest of y'all. And for whatever reason, I've been stewarded with this gift to be able to talk to you. And when I do my thing, I feel the most connected because I'm seeking to teach my own son. I'm talking to my loved one who is on the other side of that camera, who's at a distance from me, maybe going through something, may need something. And I know as a vessel of offering and a vessel of peace and love, I anoint myself in service. And I'm hoping that the text comes to life to you guys. But I also want you to see that it is a gift that I'm stewarded with. I have nothing on my own. And what you hear that's good, give to God. What you hear that's of the flesh or dirt or whatever, I'll take credit for all that stuff. But anything good that comes of this belongs to the Lord. All glory, praise, and honor to the Creator. I'm going to go ahead and open up with prayer. But I wanted to find the right page. Thank you, Lord. Lord, I am humbly submitting myself before you now. I am a sinner, undeserving of your love, yet you show me mercy, you show me kindness. And without you, I'm nothing. All the talents I'm stewarded with, all of the opportunities I'm given, it's a manifestation of your obedient love. I have nothing of my own, and with that, you've protected me on this journey with my mistakes, with my learning lessons, my opportunities, and I take full... Lord, forgive me. I ask that you would allow me to forgive others. I would view others with the opportunistic view of life that I should be holding. Lord, free me of the burden of self-judgment and analytical, and let me bless, let me uplift. I know everyone is dealing with the outcome for something that is completely preventable. And I hold the church in full responsibility. I'm going to throw it all down at you right now because this is not mine. I surrender it to the Lord, and I ask for an open heart to express how simple this is, and you all willfully chose to do otherwise. Lord, continue my prayer, continue my gift. Anyone who still has their eyes closed, open them. Also realize we are living a prayer. You are a living temple. Your body is resonating with the authority of the universe. The thing is, whatever you're sending out, whatever the signal of, whatever your prayer, whatever you're holding on with your breath, your prana, which is where we get these words and the structure of them, the mathematical science of creation, affirmation, the right frequency, if I could describe it correctly. I ask you now humbly, Lord, protect us. Forgive us of our many sins. Help us be pure and holy again. I ask that you would utilize the technology that was stewarded. You don't need anything. You don't need anything. The creation is perfect. I just surrender this opportunity and vessel and this medium to express an absolute truth in a world that does not provide you, Lord, with enough absolute truths. May this truth find you, uplift you, challenge you, and grant you access to that part of abundance and thankfulness that this journey has brought us to in Jubilee. All of these concepts I'll have to go deeper into, but Lord, that you would provide me the words and the wisdom and the opportunity to speak with clarity and reflect your truth in such a way to where that they know it is of you. They know that the only thing in the way is respect. The fear is the lack of awareness of self, Lord. You are the creator and the I am. You are the present mind gift. You are thankfulness. You are gratitude. You are the expression. the emotional recipe book of the Bible. Lord, thank you for everything that you've taught us before in the sciences and the mathematics and the arts and everything that we're stewarded with in this great, amazing time where there should be no illness. We have the solutions, and there should be no illness. And in studying the root cause and these words that we are using today, when where they come from, what they call etymology, the depth of these words, of what they come from. For instance, when you use the term work is the word in Amharic or Tigrinya, the Amharic, Ethiopian, best way I don't know how to translate, it's just the language, geese, that kind of stuff. It's squiggles, okay? Where we get our language comes from this original lesson. And the Bible teaches us this original lesson in the full circle of it. And in stewardship and in respect and in love of the cycles that you are living right now in a universal balance. It may not be seen because you haven't accepted it. You might be in the blur of mainstream media, which, by the way, since the Smith-Month Act, since the Obama administration, mainstream media is entertainment, and it can be used like other entertainment. There used to be a journalistic aspect to life. There used to be the reporters, what we would call the watchers, in the Old Testament and Enoch and such. We have a whole book of the watchers, which was the people who could read and write were making sure we all knew what was going on. What's happened over time now is we came from this biblical-based science, which, because of the taboo of creation and how we're all connected, we have this Adam and Eve, good and evil perspective that's in the way of like the true reflection here. And what I mean by that is the queen of the sciences was theology, studying of the history. Like, people don't know in the study of Genesis, you're learning about creation, you're learning about the water cycle, like you just heard, you're learning about generations, you're learning about what words meant, like some of those names that I may not have pronounced correctly, and Lord forgive me if anything, this body's nervousness got in the way, and I surrender it now to your namesake. So when you hear the scriptures that they reference to you, and that you are a good Berean, you go research to yourself and test the spirits. Like what I'm sharing with you, do your diligence on for yourself to earn it, because it's been a journey for me, and I'm sharing it with you. It's the truth. But one piece of this might be all you need right now. And it might be overwhelming if you haven't had any of these things. But basically, the theology and the sciences had an issue with creation. And the issue is we're all related, according to the Bible. And the thing is, because of the church's taboo of teaching about sex and such, and matriarchal, and the bloodlines of the females, okay, bloodlines of the females were kind of hidden, and those are what carry the mitochondrial DNA. Knowing where your mama comes from is more important than knowing where your daddy came from. We all know what our daddy is, that's the whole point of it. But a mother who carried you, there was more balance in respect in the original, like Egyptian. It was taken for granted that the female was taking care of civilization, and she was not only the person who made the bread and knew how to make the wines and meads and everything else, herbs, plants, agriculture as a whole, husbandry, taking care of the animals while we were off doing whatever we had to do. They were taking care of animals and livestock stuff too. Like, women were the workforce of this era. If we were talking about servitude, if we're talking about like slavery mentality, bond servants, like if you see where we're starting from in Adam and Eve is a patriarchal tale of what happens after the matriarchal and the patriarchal are equal. Like, there's duality in male and female. There's a respect level of creation where what we're told in the story of Adam and Eve and the tree, and this is Adam and Eve, that was all intro, by the way. This is Adam and Eve tree. So by nature, a man has a hose. So he's a waterer of the ground, right? But we think of him as planting the seed. Okay? That's the one thing he became good at, was planting the seed, right? Well, if you look at what happens is the original intention of the seed and what's produced from it matters. Like when you see in Genesis, the Adam and Eve thing that's going on here is directly related to agriculture and education when it comes to like sex and figuring out some stuff. Like, as an example here, and this is a very crude, this is a very way of summarizing one view of this particular creation fall. If the women realized that they didn't need no man and they could do it on their own self, and those goddesses, Sophia, the wisdom of the priestesses and all of that were in the temples, because before we get to the Jewish culture, the Roman culture came from the Egyptian culture, and the transliterations and the stories from where we started to where we ended up were translated in such a way to create an image. And so the Adam and Eve tree is the family tree. It's the understanding of your body as a tree, because it tells of a symbiotic relationship, that there was a mist that came up from the ground to water all the ground. That's hyperbaric chamber language. That's like, creating hyperoxygenation. There was a water barrier in the sky at this time. Adam and Eve is where we're getting the land of giants, because you get all this oxygen and those growth plates ain't closed, and those are going to be those big people that's living forever. So you got big people living a lot longer than the other folks, and a younger generation coming in, and they're having to keep this history. So the oral tradition of Adam and Eve and the story as it pertains to a serpent and a fall, like depending on what Gnostic text you would look at, would also reference the serpent being a good character and educating in a different way. And then there's Asherah and the goddess that she would represent, which was the queen of heaven, which was the wife of Yahweh. And some of the traditions mention Lilith, which was like when it mentions man and man, made woman and female at the same time there, the first time. That was Lilith. That was the first one. And she was made just like man. But you couldn't subdue her. It took them having to do Adam, take a rib from him, make a bone of his bone, make her from him, in order for him to have some superiority over her in the original creation. Because originally, the Egyptian view of the womb and the the afterlife was from the woman, and her creation and all of like the sacred geometry and everything that we deal with is from what we would call the lunar arts, or studying the stars, studying the distance, which created mathematics and science and all. This is all equinox, solstice, lunar calendar. And so Adam and Eve in the original tree and in the original balance is like, you got to start with perfection. Most people don't talk about what perfection was. And so what I'm mentioning first is Adam and Eve as their place, their contextual use, and what it means for this tree, okay? The tree of life is always going to be the tree of life. Tree of life is cannabis. But the thing is, cannabis connected to you. See, it's your symbiotic relationship with the plant that, like, when you keep fasting and you get your body right, your urine produces in a way to where that it produces the plant specifically for you. But you have to maintain your own body properly. Fasting, you have to maintain water and proper hydration. And basically, you are a garden keeper, and your body is the vessel and the temple, and you're living it out. Now, that responsibility of perfection is what keeps you well. You take care of her, she takes care of you. The tree of life is a woman in the medicine. That's what you have to see. And if you look at the tree of life in the respect of the industries that are created from the male plant, and the female plant is the medicine and the spirituality and all these other sensualities and creation of life and all. We got all these trades over here for the male plant, which is basically, if we took the plants and we referenced it, cannabis, male and female, or hemp and medicine, right? You're looking at Adam and Eve. You're looking at the plant. You're looking at your symbiotic relationship now. In order to baseline, you have to have a respect for agriculture and trees and the female. So all of that's built into the tree of life and the society that provides the abundance that we're supposed to be in. That's creation. Now, when a cherubim is put in the way, right before that was like the verse in Genesis chapter 3, I think it's like verse 21, 22, something like that. He's saying, lest he reach out his hand and take also and eat the tree of life and live forever. Right there. That's what you're missing. As soon as you're there, guess what? You're on heaven. Really? So cannabis is essential. I did a whole movie called Rapture at 420, where I share some of the work of Paul von Hartman, who worked on a book that's, basically cannabis versus activists that cataloged what went on prior to are so monumentally important. Then you have the catalysts of those individuals who already got in trouble for cannabis, were using it for the right ways with all in purposes and intentions. But the thing about it was cannabis as a culture has become taboo and illegal in America. Stop right there. Why? We replaced the tree of life with idols of the tree. The idolatry, we turned away from Asherah, the respect for female, the lunar calendar, everything else, because we're on a Roman tradition. So we're on idols and like these hidden things, owls. So instead of using coins that had, they basically engineered how to make silver trade. It was when you would come to do your offerings for God and stuff, you would have to, bring the best of what you had. And if you didn't have good enough stuff, then you had to buy it and you had to trade something for it in order to get these animals to go up there and do this. And the interesting thing about these kind of things is when you would go into abundance, you would go into it from the point of view of like everything is perpetual and above. But in the case of idolatry, it's never enough. You still got to cut down more trees. You still got to cut down more things. You got to keep it going. It's commercialism. It's the idols. And so that sacred wisdom that they hidden was like the symbol for the owl they would use for currency and silver in the trade for these particular items. So idolatry in the community replaced what was happening with, not just trade, but the community was evolving from being an agricultural trade base to using silver. And silver could be mined and it could be done into coinage, and it was imprinted with first Caesar's heads and then certain symbols of olive trees and those kind of things, depending on what regions they were for. But the following along of coinage is really interesting when it comes to the idolatry of the trades of what this plant was done, how it was utilized, because on into the Roman Empire, cannabis is being used, and it's one of those crops that they kept secret, and they always, had armed guards and protected. So cannabis, as far as making rope and textiles and, even stocks for weapons and those kind of things, it's like this was something very important and vital. And the depth of everything that society needed was in this plant. And so this became like a hidden trade. It became something for only the honor guard. Only the Romans were allowed to do it. The Romans, being other people who served in the military, earned a secondary status within the government, and they had the right to what we would do for veterans today if they had some kind of privileges towards things. The idols and the owls of the secret societies, keeping things secret, but then also selling lies publicly. So what I need to tell you, though, is you have a sovereign heritage. Like, you have everything that you are supposed to have when you're born in the conception of your thought. The abundance is there in your creation, the fact that you're here. The thing is, all of the reverberations of the comparisons that are in the way, all you have to do is find the gratitude. And it's so, like, minute. Instead of wanting, like reaching for, receive. If I could tell my son, Like, most important thing is, remember, you're a descendant of a king, but you're also a descendant of a queen. All of us have matriarchal mitochondrial DNA. All of us share the same mother. Daddies might be different, but we all go back mitochondrial DNA to one woman. And that woman we call mitochondrial Eve. Now, I can't tell you about your authority without telling you about your sovereignty. And sovereignty is a perspective of precious bloodline. No matter which history we follow, it's all ours. And what you do with your presence right now is your offering of image and respect. So surrendering from the point of view of, you have to take a moment to gather yourself, to look at your viewpoint, to count the things that you're thankful for, and be aware of the areas of improvement. Being completely honest, respecting a goal, putting a vision board together, and seeing those offerings of, I need to change this aspect of my life to accomplish this. Thank you for providing that opportunity. I've been missing it. Awesome opportunity. Switch the mighta, coulda, shoulda, wouldas to thank you, I am. Thank you, I am. Sovereign heritage. Now, you hear about sovereign citizens and this and that. Look, doesn't matter your citizenship. Doesn't matter on that note. What matters is your sovereign respect for one another and communication. So how you carry yourself and present yourself in the reflection of I am to others will determine so much about how you view yourself in another. When you respectfully see we all have one mama, right? We all come from, we would say, the earth, right? Our Mother Earth. Could you say that? If we've got the Father who created the skies and everything else, right? The blessing that I'm saying here is, yeah, we can go by who had what son and this and that, but what I want you to really think about is not just the sons, but the daughters, because their intention of what they did with that individual created life. And that respectful resemblance is what's needed to come to this next principle. The garden mentality. Garden mentality, I mentioned about the Adam and Eve tree and breaking it down to you like your body is a symbiotic relationship with your mother, the earth, through cannabis, and your processed blood, your diet, your routine, your exercise, your taking care of the earth is directly connected to the earth. We've lost that. We've lost the garden mentality of respecting male and female and roles and service in the abundant community. We've lost food forests. We've lost public land that could be used for abundance to help us all eat and have no worries. And yet right now, a perfectly preventable situation, what we're dealing with today with this coronavirus stuff is a perfectly preventable situation if the church was truly responsible and had a garden mentality. Like priesthood in Exodus chapter 30 references like the census and the counting of the people, like the accounting. Our job is to make sure we can keep count of everybody and check on y'all. Like, it's not just important to share a sermon with you. Like, I can educate you, but, you know, I try and serve my best through, like, social medias and those kind of things, and then presenting respectful arguments to this whole situation. Like, if people are going to reach out to you, respect them enough to hear them. If they're not on the wavelength that you can understand, express that with love and bless them on their journey. So we overcome this with this forgetful people, you know, like we forgot we all came from one. So now we're disrespecting ourselves all over the place when, like, don't you know that we're all related? Don't you know we're all family? And when I say blessed be tree family, like I'm referencing my respect for you and my love for you. Holy cigar, you know, when I want to protect people, But the thing is, in order to protect them, I have to make them aware of what these things mean. These are instruments. Portable altar. You know, there's wordings right now on the books for paraphernalia. Paraphernalia is a word that they use to, zone in on people who have cannabis consuming devices of some sort. Doesn't matter what it is. Or it's basically, I don't know what it is, but I know it's used for that. It's complete ignorance in most cases. And it has to be judged by a judge. And it's an offense to where, unless it's declared properly, respectfully, the cop has to do what he's doing in order to, you've presented yourself as a commercial contract with your driver's license. You've taken your natural person, gotten into a vessel for this license says commercial use, and yet your activities are to and from home, an act of husbandry, and to work. Yet we're using a commercial instrument and establishing a commercial contract that we're using our private vehicle because we registered it and purchased it and everything else. We're using the private vehicle for commercial use. And since it's on the city streets, that's their connection to come to you to take your money or take whatever from you. And so they can put situations on you to where that you have to respectfully say, what do I do here? You respectfully have your own household, right? You respectfully have to keep an accounting. These are gifts. If you have a woman, they'll be perfect at knowing exactly what to spend. You want to know why? Because they understand the money and the idols and the owls and how much the secrecy and everything else. Because in order to survive in this modern world, they've already learned all this stuff. And they can teach you because they have that wisdom. So forgetful people of not respecting your matriarchal connection that we're all, related through Mother Earth, right? What is holy? And this is getting back to it. We come from Manassas or the forgetful people. And what is holy now? When Exodus 30 mentions holy, okay, remember, set apart, kadosh. It's like holding something out, especially for a thing. So, a love offering, a gift. And, in the old days, in the Old Testament, you would have these men that were traveling around with gear like this, and this would have had some of the oil in it, and they'd be toting their gift to humanity right in the front. Let's get something done. Y'all want a blessing? Y'all want a blessing? Y'all want a blessing? Yes, I got a blessing. It's love, right? It's what it's supposed to be. Over time, the person who was taking care of you were taking care of him, and it was this respect, right? It was this most holy dedication to serve, and combining everybody's gift into an offering, which was the anointing oil, and then it was used by the high priest to keep everybody connected. It was a common goal, and it was a dedication, and then a repurpose, and it was a perfecting. Like, they made wine, and then they figured out how to make concentrate wine like brandy, and then they figured out how to make higher spirits, and then the higher spirits they used to make perfumes, which we would call essential oils today. And when they made these essential oils, they figured out things that it would work for. Back in the day, the priests were the ones that found the miracles on what was happening with cannabis, but they were learning from women. The women were on the front lines healing folks. And so we have medicine women that were chased out by the patriarchal church because they wanted to make money at it. So when I talk about what is holy, I'm talking about what you set apart to use for God for the purpose of lifting up. We get the definition with the cannabis in its use with myrrh and cassia and cinnamon, and the way that it would create an antibacterial, the way that it would create a state that was antifungal, allowing the system to have an astringent, and it would purify the blood even. The outside surface was the antiseptic. It was put into a sunblock carrier oil, an olive oil for that day, which would do more of a shine and reflect the harmful rays. Like this was a common treatment for things like being fair-skinned, close to the equator. There's a lot of sunburning going on. Like if you could think of Moses as like the first white dude that they taught how to do this. You know, he's like basically burning, has to wear all these layers and layers, and he doesn't want to live in a cave from the sunburns, which is what they're calling lepers and stuff. So he's raised by the priest, and the priests were like, "Hey man, all you gotta do is make some sunscreen." And they're like, "Sunscreen? What? You know, what's that?" So Moses, or from Egypt and surviving under the sun and everything, they would know how to prepare the preserving oils for, you know, going through the study of watching the animals and how they interacted with plants. This was like a sacred medicine thing to where they knew how to make, for Moses, who suffered from being fair skinned and getting burnt all the time, he had scales. You know, it talks about he reaches his arm back in his robe and he makes his hand white and he puts it back. Well, his whole robe was drenched in the holy oil. And he had to do that in order to, you know, reflect the sun and stuff, because he was wearing his robes, but he also had what we would call leprosy in a form of it, to where his skin would turn chalk white and everything else if he took the anointing oil off. And then he put it back on, he would look normal again. So in the first, you know, demonstration of his, not magic, but of his, you know, use of the priesthood arts, he said, "Look, I have the same thing that you do, you know, the anointing oil." And when he's demonstrating in Exodus, is the use of the anointing oil is how he was able to survive and create, you know, all of that. So this is a learned, and think about this. I'm carrying this in a horn, so that would have been shepherding. That would have been, you know, knowing how to make an oil, an essential oil from the sheep, knowing how to do making fabric. You got wool, but more importantly, you've got dedicating agriculture to the priesthood, knowing what the, you know, husbandry of taking care of all those animals was like, but then also agriculture wise, knowing who was planting what and making sure that they had everything they needed, from moving the animal waste to taking care of the crops with it, and the whole community was, you know, tied together with its production and its trade. And eventually money outweighed with the oil and the corn, which was the original money, which was food that they could store, like grain, seed, whatever, and the oil. And then alcohol got in the mix of it, where that was like a spirit. And see, the thing is, that was a matriarchal talent that was passed on from the females, who would use yeast and everything else in order to make alcohols, chew on certain breads, like the rice chewers and the first vineyards and everything. It was a matriarchal art form to be able to do alcohol for a very long time before the church took over it. And part of this right here reference is, at that time in Egypt, they respected both male and female, and they would have had the ability to do essential oils and extracts. So when you utilize this oil in a healing way, in a communal way of, you know, public dedication and unity, it's a garden mentality of the forgetful people. It's the plantation of renown. Ezekiel, what? No, 34? Yeah, excuse me. I'm just tracing through right now in my mind of how would I express this to somebody who reads the scriptures. What is holy? Holy is setting aside something, perfecting it, dedicating it towards a purpose, towards the Creator, and then using it, which is the most holy way of, you know, serving. And when I have to take references, is be strong and be courageous. Joshua, right? Lord, please forgive me for my many sins. Help me be pure and holy again. And be strong and be courageous. My weakness is being used as a strength towards everyone else. My ability to jump between characters and do this and that is from surviving amongst so many moves with church and school and everyone. So be strong and be courageous to me is like, take a moment, realize what you're up against. No, it ain't going to be easy. It could be easy. You know what? I got this. Yeah. dedication, knowing what you're up against, calculating, being courageous, acting. Acting can be portraying in some ways, but it's also action. Show your love, show your strength on your love. Be bold and be courageous. Lord, I ask that you would reach out and you'd protect those around me. Lord, I ask right now that you forgive me. I'm nothing without you. Lord, grant me the words and the wisdom and the ability to walk through your sovereign steps with affirmations of boldness, declarations of abundance, love, joy, thank yous everywhere I look. Lord, Father, forgive me for all I've done. Uplift them, each and every one. Grant me the ability to grant the promise of tomorrow and all the abundance that comes with that. Lord, that you would give me the strength to overcome my own adversities and help others. Lord, forgive me for all of my lackings. Help me be pure and holy again. I have nothing on my own. All I have is yours. Father, forgive me for my many sins. Help me be pure and holy again. Grant me joy. Joy is a state of mind of gratitude. Right now, somebody is wishing for the opportunity to have the trouble that I'm dealing with. I need to be appreciative of the problems, just like they are, from their perspective. And I need to overcome, not for myself, but to serve and to learn. So that state of mind of joy is forever affirming that reflection in myself and another, the opportunity, the ability, and follow through. Where I lack in those, today I conquer. Forgive me for my many sins. Help me. How can I help you? Yeah, this moment's yours. What's going on? You know, being joyful is being present. It's recognizing that it could be worse, but are you kidding me? Your problems, you're alive. You have a gift. You can change it right now. You can make it better. You can fix it. Matter of fact, the only thing in the way is you. So being strong and being courageous and putting that together to what is holy, you forgot. You have a sovereign heritage. You've gone through all of this hidden stuff. Now it's revealed to you. We have one family. One family. We come from mitochondrial Eve. We come from the earth. That's what I can confirm from the scriptures. The respect has to be there. The respect is your gratitude. Okay. The gratitude sword. Like sword, shield, suit of armor, everything that you have. Everything that you have. It's yours. But the thing is, you have to surrender it in such a way to where that it's not the importance of it. It's the idea of serving with it. It's uplifting somebody. It's making their day better. It's healing them. The gratitude sword is seeing yourself in another, uplifting it. Boom, boom. Let's get it. You got this today. Keep it moving. Right? It's the power in you. What's the power in you? What are you made of? First, okay, let's break it down. Your body is mostly water. Your brain is mostly water. There's power in the water. The intention by which you receive, the intention by which you take in to the body. The thankfulness, the protective covering of, do I have people around me that's going to make sure I'm safe? Did you look around? Did you count and be thankful that there's people who's going to make sure that you're not going to choke? That power in the water of raising a toast, not just in a bar or whatever. It's like, going into drinking with priests, every glass was raised with praise, with a prayer, with and then it was a gullet, go, because that's what you did. You didn't have to drink a lot. You just toasted the event for the occasion, and that was enough for the conversation in the event. There's no gluttony in enjoying alcohol as a gift, and that was represented. But here's the thing: your body is a vessel of water, and alcohol is what you produce when you eat yeast, right? So yeast is what you're up against with alcoholism. So the principle that they are putting people on drugs for alcoholism, when you actually have to fix the diet, you have to fix the battle with the yeast. And the way that you do that is teaching them, the power in the water. Once they can control how much water they're drinking, they're conscious of what they're drinking. Now they can keep check of what they're eating, because once they're aware of one thing, you can change it. As soon as you're aware of something, you can change it. So there's power in the water and the affirmation of thankfulness. And I say it like this, it's just a bottle of water, but thank you. We can put it in a fancy chalice and pour it to all of us. If we were in scarcity, if we were in travels, the priest would be taking those items, taking those items and taking the anointing oil, and the anointing oil is on the instrument, which would either be the glove or the cloth that you would use, and the cloth was wiping to make sure that it stayed clean the whole time, because alcohol was a way of preserving and sanitizing, right? But also the Catholic Church used infused wines, and it would have had micro amounts of things that we needed in it. And so this was something that was used. The church's provision of the sacraments was something that was used to protect us and provide for us in times of need. And the church today has turned away from what we were in its original thing. The chalice raising and all like that became taxation and not talking about politics and everything. When, if it wasn't for Christianity, or if it wasn't for the Bible and the education of the Bible here with the Puritanism and everything else, there wouldn't be the culture that we have today. True, but the respect for these common absolutes of what we eat. I mean, the scripture says eat this tree of life and live forever. Now, eat the tree of life and live forever. Here's the things that I've learned. Cannabis is the one plant that would provide everything that you needed in some ways. Okay? And I mean in some ways because you still need water, right? So cannabis is a symbiotic relationship with you. The seed that's produced from that is also from you. And guess what happens from that service is your body becomes a living sacrifice, a living testimony to its intention and its provision in that, not just fertilization, but like in that offering. It's like you're directly connected with the land and its intention. And so right now, if the tree of life was just all of the industries of agriculture, like I would like to put it as an example. I could teach it with just hemp, because hemp has enough industries. But as to the purposes of certain plants, like there was plants that were prohibited because they were anticoagulants. There's plants that have been hidden because of that. There's plants that purify water. There's, records in the scriptures of Moses kicking a log into the water and it purifying the water so that they could drink it. I've studied those plants, and I think the industries are the tree of life, but at the same time, there are plants that if you ate it would, take you to a lower level, in the sense of it would definitely reset everything, but it would also possibly end your life. I mean, the ways that you could die from eating certain plants that we've learned aren't good for us, but they're good for animals, they're good for other purposes, they make other things. Um, that sacred knowledge of being able to eat and live forever kind of got overtaken with petroleum industry, and the petroleum industry making patents on not organic or essentials, but a petroleum derivative, seed oil, in order to produce the end result. So having each and every plant provided what it needed, and these individuals would be obsoleted. So to respect agriculture properly, and what cannabis does is it's a great equalizer, and it redoes the economy, in the sense of, if you balance cannabis to silver alone, which is what we had it to gold. You guys know cannabis was weighted to gold here by the dollar. The dollar used to be gold in America in 1912 and 1915. $10 was basically trade gold for him. So our history hasn't been shared with us fully. And so what I intended to do was give like a crash course on the entire history. So I did a film called Movie, which you can watch on Amazon Prime for free. It's called Rapture at 420. And I use puppets and, political gesture and parody in order to show we're all connected in one family. And I'd like to do more projects. This was in the midst of dealing with family and loved ones and trying to raise my own family. And right now, all I'm doing is sharing with you the summations. And this is the blessing. So we have everything we need to feed everyone right now, in the plants, in the agriculture, in the communities. And I surrender all of that on my Patreon. If you look at Revjc Patreon, you will see I also share Project Thief in the Night, and I go through all of that. Like, to have respect for what all of these terms mean in the Bible. I love you guys. I hope this finds you well. And this was the telling up into the cover art, which the cover art was the Virgin Mary, and George Washington. And basically marijuana, new name, and it's Canna. Kaneh. Canna. That's the agricultural hemp educational derivative for how to bring this to you all. I have courses that are being represented and shared. One of my priorities with this is to develop for the children their education, putting together apps and online schools. And so that way they can take care of themselves locally there and protect one another and then continue on. So building this opportunity for each other, like you are layering a gift, which is, I want to teach future generations what I have, because my love is for you as my son, my daughter, my sister, my mother, grandmother. God rest all of the lost souls from everything that's going on with this world today. I lift you up right now. I pray healing upon you, not because I deserve it, not because you deserve it, but because the Creator is merciful and abundant and has the opportunity, and you have all of the knowledge to heal thyself. Physician, heal thyself is like, your pH, to eat the hemp seed, to eat so like there's all of these layers. And then when you figure out like CBD and the alcohol extractions and the laboratory names and all this other stuff, basically this plant produces everything you need to take care of you. And to eat and live forever is to have everybody have the same information, and we're building abundance instead of scarcity, instead of competition. Like, the only competition we have is who's got better bud, and then it's like, it's a challenge and a blessing, to uplift one another. The perspective of oneness has to be there. This is something that would be kept by the sanctuary of the city. The judges would have to determine at the city gates. They would judge if they're allowed entry. It's like, what's your purpose here? What are you coming into my town to do? Like, this is on them, and it's on the respect of, hey, come check this guy out. Is he for real? Is he trying to help? What's going on? And who speaks for them? So you have a court system, you have an entire respect factor for society, municipalities that has to be addressed. There is a couple layers of, what goes on with educational cannabis Christian ministries. Like, there is a purpose to showing the proper way to use medicine. There is a purpose to respecting all of the agriculture and the duty that comes from knowing about him and the history of the scythe and the Scythian and everything up until now. Like, you are so eternal. When you study cannabis, you open up a history that takes us back to a great leap forward in some people's opinion, which came from agriculture. But it was the women that carried all the industry up until then. Men were the hunters, and then y'all figured out society. And then, well, we, had to have our own thing, so we wanted, try to make religion about, like, just guys. And then wars happen and stuff, and we did stupid things like outlaw all the cats because you women like the cats, and we thought that would stop you from being able to produce your own alcohol and whatever. And what it actually did was cause, like, the cats to not be there, and then vermin to multiply upon the earth, and then plague and then all this. So, like, women and their industries and the mistakes of the church and inquisitions and all that stuff, where we were learning from the women and the sacred women for this history, has to have a respect for all religion, because it's not a matter of what you believe, but it's a matter of land rights. Religion is where you're allowed to form and regain. It's taking off your shoes and you're on holy ground. It's like being judged on the earth. So what happens is you have to take that presence, that respect, and then magnify it with the foreverness of this plant. So when we educate future generations, when we share with communities in this proper way, we're building abundance for all of them, security for all of them. And this is what heals their body. This is not just a wasteful drug that people they've purposefully asset forfeiture robbed entire generations with a war on drugs. And drugs aren't the issue. It's mental abuse, it's generational abuse, it's what's happened from the gin craze of the Great Britain figuring out if they control alcohol, that they'll, control alcohol and taxation here, is how they took over, the presence of the money and the system of trade and everything else, and cutting it off to where that, yep, all those industries now belong to Royal, and this is what everybody's drinking the juice. So to eat and live forever is to be conscious of what you're eating, drinking, your gratitude, you're aware of the power in the water and the affirmation, the joyful state of mind, that you're strong and courageous, what is holy, you've been a forgetful people, like you've gotten your garden mentality back, the sovereign heritage of who you really are, the idols, the owls, the symbols, all the way back to Adam and Eve and the tree of life. We're all connected. Blessed be Tree Family.